right, well, I was going to write another book. I was thinking about it because I basically finished 6 books that I've written, and I've been thinking and making an outline for a possible 7th, and it's about the fact that war and love are really similar in a lot of ways. Like, different war strategies can apply to different situations in relationships, or even with animals, or so there's different variations. In the main part of my outline was talking, I wanted to show all the different types of warfare there was, so that I could see if my theory is true, and like where it applies, where the different strategies apply and match with different things with the relationships, and so there's a big picture, like the meaning of life, and then there's different perspectives. Like, this is part one, the introduction, and I think it's mostly going to be, I think I need to start with like the red pill type. I don't even like that word, but like how men are learning, because red pill used to just mean like truth, but now it's more like, men are learning how the world is, and how the world treats men in general, and what we need to do to keep our alpha type status. And the alpha stuff doesn't, that comes from wolf packs, alpha, beta, omega, and so some of that applies to the red pill stuff, some of it doesn't, and so I'll probably talk about some of that, but I don't want to get too in depth of the wolf pack type family alpha structure, and the levels there, because that's something that other people talk about a lot better, and it doesn't match completely with the red pill stuff. Anyway, so yeah, right now I'll probably talk about mostly about the red pill stuff, but there's the next part might be like, God's perspective, like creation and why God made us, and you how his own personal fights, if you want to call it a fight, or struggle in deciding if he wanted to make us or not, or why he made us, and just my beliefs about that stuff. And then probably Satan, the fight between him and God, and Satan, and his demon servants, and so that's probably going to be part 2, and then part 3 will probably be our relationship perspective, between families and men and women, quote unquote marriages, and I say quote because of the whole government involvement in marriages. I don't like the whole, the red pill. A lot of people learning about red pill obviously know how men get screwed over in marriages, and it's the contract and the government involvement stuff that really screws men over there. And then further, there's even relationships with animals. There's relationship with animals, and so that's probably going to be like the 3rd part or 4th part, and then yeah. So it depends on if this gets interested. If people if they want to listen to me rant and rave about all this. Otherwise, maybe I will make a book, but I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, the beginning, uh, you know, until people learn about the red pill stuff, women are going to control them, usually because of the feminist movement. And a lot of men are beta or weak. They're not. They haven't learned how to be an alpha, and so they let women walk all over them, and they let women disrespect them. And as soon as women in general see a weakness in men, then they start to despise the man. And so men need to learn to not let the women disrespect them, and to not give their strength to women, not allow women to have power over them in ways that can weaken them. And the men need to be the head of the household, things like that. And so a lot of men still haven't learned that, and so their relationships are probably going to fail. The women are going to despise them and run the wear the pants and tell them what to do, and even if they're not so bossy, they're still going to have a lot of control, and that control makes them, whether they know it or not, makes them look down on the men. And they look at it like a weakness. The man is weak because he's not leading, he's not asserting his dominance in the hierarchy. They're not calling her out on her bull crap and her mind games and her testing, and so this is it becomes like a daily battle, and so love is it really is, or can be compared with a battle and a war very well. It is, every day, a man needs to test everything that the woman says. Okay, well, if they are, being a jerk and being mean and insulting and playing mind games or just doing all these things, then they need to, there's certain things that we need to do. We need to, tell them, well, we're not going to put up with that. I don't want to hear that in this house, or whatever, however they feel they need to, or, we're not going to have a relationship if you keep doing this and this and this, or so the man needs to be willing to stop the relationship and break up, if it's needed. If there needs to be, for lack of a better word, a consequence for pretty much any disrespect, or any, maybe the first time there's a disrespect, maybe forgive it and, say, okay, well, if this happens again, then there's going to have to be a consequence. And eventually, a breakup is going to have to be on the table. If things keep happening and things aren't getting fixed, even if the guy really is crazy about the woman and really loves her, he has to be willing to break up, in my opinion, because if things keep on going bad, because if there's no consequences, then the woman's going to realize, okay, well, they're going to realize they can just keep on doing the bull crap, and they can keep on trying to wear the pants, and they can keep on trying to boss the guy around, or they can demand certain things, or they can make fun of him, or whatever it is. And so and the other thing is that, if we say we're going to do something, we need to do it. If we say there's going to be a consequence, we need to do it. And so it's just a battle. It's not, you can't just, it's not like a movie where you can just walk into this relationship and it's just all meant to, maybe there's some meant to be. I don't really want to get into that so much, but even if something's meant to be, it's not a cakewalk where you can just be asleep, sleepwalk through the relationship and everything's gonna be fine. You have to almost be on your toes, like you're walking on eggshells, even if you can find a good woman, one that's not gonna cheat and one that doesn't lie, or if that's possible, or doesn't lie very much. And even if you find a good woman, you still gotta be on your toes, because any moment, they could pull some bull crap, or they could, start talking to a guy, a former boyfriend or a guy friend, or and you gotta, if you haven't, if you have set boundaries about that already, then now you're gonna have to, there's gonna be consequences. If you haven't, you're gonna have to say, okay, well, I don't really want you talking to other guys, or there's the things can come up. There's a guy I listen to on YouTube, and about red pill topics, and um, he's a lot of the stories. Most of the guys, they think the relationship's going good. A lot of the guys in the story, they'll say something like, "Well, I thought everything was wonderful and awesome and great," and then they'll start telling the story about how they found out that their woman was cheating. Or, I mean, this is literally 20, 50, just so many times in the story, the guy would say, well, I thought everything was great. She said everything was great. She was nice to be around, or fun to be around. It's just, and in the background they're cheating or whatever. And so, or they're doing an emotional affair or whatever. And so, yeah, it's just, we just always have to be on our toes, and it's just a battle. It's literally a battle. And so, you know maybe I'll cover this again, the red pill stuff, and go more in depth about how it might match different battle strategies. Because in my outline, I was thinking about certain battle strategies in war, and like I was saying, how does this match with battles with relationships or whatnot? I mean, even God, he, and when I want to cover that topic, he had some battles, like, the Hebrew says it better, but basically, to paraphrase, when I think it was when before the flood, before he did the flood, he was saying something like um, I would need to look at it again, but in the English, it was saying something like he repented himself or something like that. Just, the English isn't the best translation there, in my opinion. But in Hebrew, I think it was like a word like God had to console himself or comfort himself, and so, concerning the topic of how bad humans were, and that he would have to make a flood, and so, I don't think it was easy for God to make that decision, and so that was, in my opinion, is a kind of a personal battle that God had to go through. And of course, God is perfect, and he knows the correct thing to do, and he doesn't make mistakes, but he still had to think about it and decide, okay, well, this is what I'm going to have to do in this situation. I don't really want to, but this is what has to be done. And so there's still, I'm sure he's pretty upset about it and sad or whatever, and angry. And so, even, and even animals, like, I want to get into that topic where, if somebody, if the owner goes to work for the day, they have the battle of okay, well, are they coming back? Are they going to abandon me? So, and then they have to try to remember past situations where, if well, they came back, it took most of the day, but then they came back, and so they have to, so even animals have to go through some things too. And so, yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys think, and I'm pretty new to doing videos. This is technically the first video on my channel, on this channel, I think, because I used to have a different channel, I think. I don't think it was the same one, but that was probably 2010 or 11, and yeah, I think that was a different channel. Anyway, so this is the first video on this channel, and because the other video I uploaded was an interview done on me, and I got permission to upload it. It was done on a different account, and I got permission to upload it here. All right, well, yeah, if there's enough interest, or if I feel like I want to keep on going with this, I'll probably, you know, go 4 or 5 parts at least, probably, but maybe more. All right, well, thanks for listening if you got this far.